Well, here, what I'll do for you guys, and I appreciate you having me over. I know it's difficult time, so I appreciate you thinking of me.
God rest his soul.
Is that
Your
him?
dad. That's him.
That looks just like you.
I know. My brother takes after him a lot.
I was adopted.
Oh, yep, got it. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pull up my listing presentation for you. We're going to go over our systems that we have in place to get you the most amount of money for your house. While I do that and my computer's uploading, is I like to find out what are you guys like? What do you think needs to happen to get this done? Like to get the job done? What are you looking for from me? And what are you expecting throughout this process?
Well, the house has a lot of stuff in it, as you can tell.
Yes.
So dear old dad accumulated a lot of things over his lifetime.
Mhm.
So we're not sure what direction to go. If we should have an auction, have an auctioneer come out and get rid of the items in the house. So we're really open to, what do you have available? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I got you. So am I the only guy you're interviewing, or do you have?
No, you're not.
Got it.
You're the first, so leave a lasting impression.
All righty. I can pull the old presentation up here. Have you guys figured out like movers or anything, like people to haul out and stuff for you? So I know you said you're thinking about an auctioneer, but do you need anybody like junk guy removal?
We're looking at all options at this point.
Okay.
We're not sure. Yeah, this is sort of sudden. We're both without a state, so we're gonna need some help.
Were you able to get that property disclosure in your deed?
We have a copy of the deed and we were able to pull the property disclosure, but unfortunately we can't answer most of those questions. We've never lived in the home. We don't have a lot of details other than the fact that our father renovated the home fully within the last 5 years.
Got it. If I jot some stuff down, I'm not, I'm just making notes to myself here. But anyways, technical difficulties. Okay, here we go. So most important thing for you, we already kind of touched base on that. But what I'm going to be going over with you today is, how to get your home sold quickly, top dollar, least amount of hassle. That's the idea. That's, ideal situation for anybody who's selling a house. And I'm also going to go over some unique proprietary programs that we have in our unique team systems that we put in place to get your home sold, and some of the specialized market knowledge that we have from doing this over and over again. And, this shocked me when I found out about it, is that when you're doing the right thing, by the way, when you're interviewing multiple realtors, is most of the people who work with an agent, they don't go back to that same agent because they're dissatisfied, because there wasn't a lot of communication going on. So poor communication, it gives us sometimes gives realtors a bad name. 80% of the realtors sell 20% of the houses, and 20% of the realtors sell 80% of the houses. And that's large in part because of the communication aspect. And one of my guarantees to you as a client is that I guarantee in writing that I'm going to communicate with you every week and update you on the sale of your home. And if I don't get back to you within 24 hours, we take a hit on the fee for that if we don't do it. And there's a lot to do to get a home sold. I'll be the first one to tell you that. And if you're going to do it right, so if we're going to do it, we might as well do it right. And the ABCs of real estate, this is kind of, I still do some of these things, so don't get me wrong, but this is typically what you see the most realtors doing. And what I'm going to go over with you afterwards is what we do on top of that to get your home sold. So most agents, they advertise themselves. My advertising works because I'm sitting at your table, right? So, and then next thing they do is they bang a sign in your yard, and then they create an ad. Maybe they even run it, and then they download your listing to the multi-list. Have you ever been on Zillow, Julia?
All the time.
So that comes from something called the MLS. So it gets syndicated out to the multiple listing service. So that's one of the things that we do as well. And then, most realtors, they encourage people to show it mostly in their office, and then they try an open house, and then they get on their knees and pray if that's not working. So the reason I go over this with you is that I do all of these things, but you don't need a license to do all these. You can order your own photographs. You can put a sign in your yard. You can run an ad, right? You can even put a house on the MLS, but that's not why you're hiring me. So that's what I'm going to go over with you here in a little bit. And how most people operate, this is how I used to operate, is you're juggling all the hats as a licensee, especially a new one like I was. And, you're making the phone calls, you're running ads, you're getting people to come through the house and see it. And the first ball that always drops is the service ball. So the more stuff that I'm doing, the less time I can spend communicating with you. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It's the equivalent of if you were hopping on a plane and you look out the window, how would you feel if you saw the pilot gassing up the plane? That'd make you kind of nervous, right? Or if the doctor was getting you at reception and he was mopping the floors, that wouldn't sit well with you. It's the same idea. So we have everybody in place, and I still do some of these things myself, but we have a couple individuals in place to help make this a seamless process for you. So you and I are in the middle, and this diagram here is just to show you how this process is going to work, because your situation is a little different. You know, again, I wish it was different circumstances, but the way you sell your home is different than somebody who's like, John, I just got to get out of here. I got relocated for a job, right? So we have some other things that need to happen. You need to have a couple things removed. You need to have it staged properly so you can get the right amount of money. But let me get back here quick. But some of these people here, closing coordinator, there's this guy named Nathan that handles all of the deadlines and make sure that we're going to meet our contract obligations when you get a buyer whose offer you accept. Admin, there's this really nice lady, if you call the office, her name's Jen. She makes sure that when the deposit checks get delivered, they get to where they're supposed to go. And then buyer's agents, I don't know if you know this, but so at least with me, when you work with me, there's over 2,000 agents that are in our realtor association. Your home is going to get pushed out to all of them, right? So they're going to all have access to your property and your property's information. On the customer service, I'll be dealing closely with you because I can delegate some of this stuff. So innovative consumer programs, some of the stuff that we pioneered that we don't think you'll see a lot of, but we've had some people copy what we're doing. But 24/7 talking ads. So the reason I bring this up is you see this phone reaching through and grabbing this guy's throat. When people talk to salespeople, they still look at me as a salesperson. They tend to avoid talking to you unless they have to, right? It's the same reason people go to the car dealership on Sunday. They don't want to talk to the salespeople. So how do we get around that and get people to call about your home if they don't want to talk to me? So this is the answer that we've come up with, is that it's kind of hard to see, but you'll get a free hotline for your home with a distinct ID number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. And whenever they call that number and enter that ID, you get 24/7 information. So if somebody's driving by your house, they don't even need to get out of their car. They can just have that information played back to them. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Is this making sense so far? Do you have any questions?
Can't quite see the screen,
Oh, okay. Do you have your glasses?
not that distance.
Can't do it, but anyways, so detailed information 24/7 days a week. And ironically, by not having to speak with me, we get 3 times as many calls. So you're never going to miss a buyer. And the prospective people that view your house, they're pre-qualified
So let's
interest.
go back. So they call who? They're not calling you. Who do they call?
So this hotline number right here. So
Who are they talking to then?
it's a pre-recorded message.
Just a message.
It just spits out information and it tells them about their home. They can leave a voicemail, and then I return their call and
So
qualify.
you're saying that 3 times more people will leave their name and number with that as opposed to a live person?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
just to make sure I understood.
And where is that advertised, that hotline?
So anywhere you want. So I can't put it on, like, if you know, if Zillow, there's rules that prevent me from putting a phone number in a description, but you can put it on in the front yard on a sign rider. You can put it in the ads that we run on Facebook, as long as I have some rules that I have to follow. But
Okay.
you can put it anywhere. You can give it to your friends and just post it on Facebook. But and that's no extra cost. That's stuff that we shoulder. Tour of homes. So traditional open house. So I used to do traditional open houses, and I find that sometimes it's difficult to get people through the door. Even if it's 3 hours long, there's no urgency there to get people in, right? And you know, it's putting you out for 3 hours on a Sunday, especially if you do them consecutively, and that can be taxing on you guys, especially with all the stuff you got to get done here as an estate. You want to be in here as much as you can and work on the house, right? Because you got memories you're sifting through. I know how it is. And one of the things that we've also found out is that, you know, less than 1% of people, at least in my experience, have bought a house at an open house. I've never had anybody come through an open house I was sitting at and rate me an offer right there. So that's just in my experience. It's good to get exposure, but how we combat that, it's not on this slide, of course, but what we do is, instead of a 2-hour open house or a 3-hour open house, it's a 1-hour open house that we advertise. that we market to, so people are all coming through at the same time. So when they all come through at the same time, you create like an auction-like atmosphere, like you said. You're thinking about getting an auctioneer in there, so it's not an auction, but you create that same atmosphere. That's what will get you top dollar for your house. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Buyer profile system. So this is the other side of what we're talking about today. So we're talking about our seller systems that we have in place. This is what we do to get buyers to come see your home. So this is how we find interested parties. And how most realtors operate is they pick a couple houses, they show them a bunch, and then they try and sell them on one that they think is going to meet their criteria. But this system, what it does is it puts the buyer in the driver's seat. So if they're coming to your house, that means they're motivated and they're ready to get something done. They like this house more than the other hundreds that they've seen. And in preparation of our meeting today, I went through my CRM. A CRM is like a client management system. You ever heard of that?
Mhm.
So it's like a bucket where all the buyers that we generate go. So all the buyers are sitting there, and we can follow up with them and figure out what they want or what they're looking for as buyers, right? And these are the people that have matched the beds and baths of your home. So I don't work with all these people. I don't have them signed to a buyer's agreement, all of them. But the first thing I would do is, if you hired me, I would reach out to these people and say, hey, Joe and Josie's house is, their father's house is coming on the market. Beware. So certain rules we have to follow with that, but that's just one of the things that you can do, and that we think separate us. So we're coming to you with motivated buyers.
Okay.
Any questions so far? All right, so organizing showings. So another thing to consider is that buyers and the realtors are driving around looking at signs and houses all day. So usually, I don't know about you if you've ever bought or sold a house before. You're not looking at just one house a day. You go out on the weekends and see 3 or 4 at a time. So if picture every house is looking the same, which house are you going to call back on? So you got to make it as easy as possible for the buyers to get that information and to request a showing from their realtor, because that's the middleman that they have to go through, right? Because a lot of times they don't call me all the time because they might have somebody representing them. Does that make sense? So to make this easier is we have this one-of-a-kind showing software. It's called Showing Time. You ever heard of that?
No.
So I'll explain it to you here quickly. Something that we pay for, that I get as part of my dues as a realtor. And the software, what it does is it allows the buyers and their realtors, or excuse me, the buyers' agents who say that they say, hey, I want to look at this house. All they do is they send in a request. You get CC'd on these text messages, and you can either confirm or you can reschedule. So it's that simple that it goes right to your phone. You can say, hey, John, it doesn't work. We're over there doing work. So that way we're not playing phone tag, trying to coordinate showings all the time. With that, is that something that would help you guys out?
Yes.
Okay. And this is what it looks like, so they can see when other people are even looking at your home. So we can say, hey, so-and-so's got a showing confirmed for Wednesday at 2. They better get in there and look at this before that person does. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
This is some of the feedback that you'll get every week on, because when you get the buyers through, it's not enough to just say, hey, do you want this house or not? You want to know why they don't buy it. Because maybe you can relate to this, but when you go to a department store, you're buying a TV or something, to say to the salesman, hey, or the salesman will say to you, hey, well, yeah, what do you think about this TV? Oh, it's great. Okay, well, when do you want to buy it? I'm not really interested. I'll buy it the next day. So what these buyers will do is that if you ask them in person, hey, what's wrong with this house? They won't tell you, but if you give them something to write on or a feedback form, they'll tell you exactly why they're not buying. They can tell you what they think of the price. They can tell you what they think of the area, or anything that's preventing you from purchasing that home.
Okay.
So then that's something you get every week. And then, you can get that, you'll get that once a week. You won't get it 24/7 because, excuse me, replicate or duplicates live. And this is where we get into some of the marketing stuff that we do. And if you scan that, that'll take you to all my social media. So whenever we get a property for sale, like if you were to list with me, you get put on all social media platforms, right? So you'll get Facebook ads, you'll get Instagram ads, and a YouTube tour, and you can send that all out to your friends. So the idea is the more exposure you get, the more money you're going to make for your home. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I guess my next question for you is like, is there any boxes that I haven't checked yet to help you get your home sold?
I don't think so.
What's it cost?
Good question. So we have a few programs that I'll lay out for you, but assuming that the money makes sense, do you think that I'm the right guy to take care of this for you?
But what's it cost?
Right, but assuming the money makes sense, like, we can agree on the fee.
I
You
think
think
I
that
like, I think I like what you provide. I think the advertising and the exposure for the home is wonderful. Obviously, being the first person who we've met with, we'd like to see what the other options are. What does it cost? What are our fees to have all of this? So we understand that it's up to us if we want to pay a buyer's agent, if that were to be an option. But for you to handle all of this on our behalf, what are we looking at?
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm not trying to be difficult. And the reason I ask you that is if there's any questions that I haven't answered, or if there's anything that maybe you would like to see that I haven't said yet, the money doesn't really matter, right? So like I said, I'm gonna lay out some plans for you here anyways, but.
The money always matters.
Right, but if I'm not the right guy for the job. That's my point.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So if you were to get stuck with me and the money made sense, the fee, would you consider working with me?
Sure, if the money makes sense.
Perfect. All righty. So let's get into the commission plans here. So we have 3 commission plans here. We have 5, a 6, and a 7, bronze, silver, and gold. That covers all the stuff that we went over today, plus the standard real estate marketing. So the lowest, the 5 here would just cover the basic, sign in the yard, basic MLS listing. And this is just on my side, so you do not have to pay a buyer's agent if you do not want to.
Okay.
Which one of these would work better for you? Take your time if you want to review them.
So anything in additional that we wanted to offer for a buyer's agent would be on top of what these fees are. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Does that make sense for you guys, or like what are you thinking as far as like what would you pay a buyer's agent?
Well,
Typically,
I've never sold a house, so
I
I'm not
guess it
sure.
depends.
I thought
She sold a house. I did. We don't.
I thought your ex-wife was
ex-wife.
a real.
My ex-wife.
Was a
Oh,
realtor.
I tried to forget her.
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't mean to bring her up.
Thanks.
But typically, I mean, it's usually between like 2 and 3.5% is what we see a buyer's agent being paid. If you're interested, we could include that with one of these.
Okay.
If that's going to prevent you from doing business with me, I don't want that to stand in the way.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So which one of these would you think would be the best for you guys?
I can't quite see what the differences are. Do you have it on paper?
I do not actually with me. Well, I do, but I don't have it.
Okay.
Let's
There
just
you go.
say for point's
Can-
sake,
can-
let's just say the silver
Silver,
package.
okay.
Silver, perfect.
Yeah.
So then we'll go silver, and then so are you ready to get started today? I know you have 2 other people that you're scheduled, but
I think I'd like to speak to the other 2 first and foremost, and then we'll be back in touch.
well, here, why don't we do this? I brought this for you with you today because, no offense, but whenever I usually am the first one in line, I very seldom get a call back. Not because I wasn't the right guy for the job, it's just because life happens. And I know that you have a lot ahead of you to get this place sold with clearing it out, finding vendors, and we want to get all that stuff in place for you. So this is a cancellation guarantee that if you're not satisfied with the job that I do, you can fire me at any time. So I know I was going to make copies of the disclosure and the deed because it takes about 24 to 48 hours to get you set up and started marketing. So if that makes sense to you, we can get started right now. And then if you want to interview the next 2 guys, you can just call me back and I'll take the sign out.
Well, like my sister said, we're going to talk to them first. And if you're the right guy, we'll call you back. That's probably the best way to put it.
If I don't hear from you, when should I call you back?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
We're interviewing them
We'll
shortly.
be making our decision today.
Got it. All righty. Sounds good.
Great.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for your time.
All righty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can you email that to us? So we
Yeah.
could- Great.
Are we still in role play mode or are we done?
We can be done.
Okay, we're done, but can you still email it? to
Way to be put on the spot, John. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good.
Now you can sit back and watch the other
Alrighty.
two.
Thank God.
I want to sit in it, so good for you.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Have a
Yeah.
seat. Well, Brother Joe, I think we're expecting our next agent here in the next minute or two. So we'll see what he has to offer us.
Great.
So, yes. Oh, come on in.
Mike Rossi.
Hello,
meet you.
Mr. Rossi. Nice to meet you.
So, like I said on the phone, I just want to start off by saying my condolences to you and your family. I understand you're going through a lot of things right now. My goal here is to just answer questions and then try to alleviate any of that stress or any of that unknown factor. Pretty much come in, provide peace of mind for you and yours, okay?
Appreciate it.
So,
So we will be very honest.
Mhm.
You came recommended from a fellow friend who did business with you last year. Spoke volumes about the deal that you handled for them, so we decided to give you a try. Full disclosure though, we do and are very well aware that you are a new agent.
Mhm.
So we're very interested to see what do you bring to the table as a new agent versus the seasoned agents that we are also interviewing.
so that is an excellent question. I come from a long background of being in the sales industry. So I was a military recruiter for going on 15 years. So while I am new to real estate, I'm not new to complex deals and things of that nature. That being said, I don't know if you both are understanding or tracking that about August of last year, a lot of things shifted in the world of real estate. A lot of things kind of were brought nationally onto the same line. So we're in a new world of real estate as opposed to the one that existed prior to August of last year. So the advantage that I bring to the table is that's the only world that I know. So I'm very, very familiar and adept to working in the world that we currently in. So I don't possess any older habits that may or may not be beneficial to you in this new world. So that being said, I am new. There are going to be lots of things that we're going to go through together that I may not know the answer to, but I do promise you that within 12 hours, I will get you an answer to any question that you do have. But I do like to pride myself on the fact that I dig into the details. So if at any point in time you have you have a question that I do not have the answer to, I will get it for you. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd like to start off just by getting to know you guys a little bit better. Do you mind telling me a little bit about your father? I mean, the family resemblance is uncanny. Not so much for you. Were you adopted? Do you mind me asking?
It was, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Oh, man, I don't think that's necessary at all. Do you mind telling me about your father? Obviously, he took pride in the property. We haven't had a chance to walk around the property yet. I'd like to do that after we're done speaking, just to kind of learn who your father was, but also too, I know the two of you really didn't live here long term, didn't really have much time on the property.
We've never lived
so-
in the property at all, actually. So our father was a Scrooge. He was very, very, very greedy, and his children did not get a whole lot from him. So we are very much looking forward to selling his property for top dollar.
Okay.
So.
Excellent. So I just want to reiterate, going back to the fact that I am, despite any relationship, I am, losing a family member is always tough on a family in every different way that people might not imagine. That being said, through this process, I'm going to have to ask you some very direct and detailed questions, just because if you choose to move forward with me as your agent, obviously you don't have to sell, but you want to sell, and we want to try to maximize your profit. We're getting into the time of year where buyers are going to be flooding the market, so we're going to see a lot more potential buyers for the property. So we want to try to take advantage of that. So if I am somebody that you want to utilize moving forward, I'm going to have to kind of get in and ask some intimate questions and kind of understand the property a little bit better. That being said, I also know that you probably may not be able to provide me with all the answers that I need. So at that point in time, anywhere that I go looking for the answers, essentially I'm going to take you along for the journey. I'm not going to ask your permission to contact each individual person, but I'm going to let you know where I find, what I find, and what we need to do with that information moving forward. It is never during this entire process am I going to make a decision for you. I want to make sure that's very well known. I want to come in and provide you peace of mind. I want you to be able to sign an agency agreement with me and then essentially not have to really do too much contemplating on it until we actually start getting offers. That being said, there are going to be certain conversations that we are going to need to have. There are going to be certain pivot points in this entire process. Not that I don't have a problem with coming in and laying out an exact strategy. This is a pretty straightforward situation. However, we all know that there's going to be unknowns that we can't control. So what I don't want to sit here and just map out, this is the way that we're going to take, because we don't know if that's actually going to happen. And there are going to be different things that could come up, different factors that could come into play that we have to consider. So up front, I just want to tell you that we're going to start a journey together. We're going to start moving forward. But again, there are going to be different pivot points where you will have to make the actual decisions in the process. I'm going to start with my first uncomfortable question. The property that we're in right now, is this under an estate?
It is.
Okay. And are you both executors on that?
We are.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have both of us, essentially all three of us have to be in agreement with moving forward, okay? So that being said, if at any point in time I float an idea past you or you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'm an insomniac, I don't sleep, so do not hesitate to shoot me a text with a question because you can't sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. Probably not going to answer it, but I will get back to it as soon as I can. So I will be constantly and readily available to answer any questions that you have. This is genuinely one of those situations where there is no such thing as a stupid question. If you've never been through the process before, buying and selling a house is one thing. Buying and selling a house as an estate is a whole different thing. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to bring them up to me.
Okay.
So at this point in time, I like to rip the Band-Aid, as I like to call it. I'm sure there's a number of concerns that you have or questions you have as far as fees or anything else of that nature. So hit me.
Well, we would first and foremost, what is the cost to do business with you? And what are you doing to earn that cost?
So I charge 3%. Now that 3% is not going to be the entirety of the commission. There's different strategies we can use on that. As far as the buyer's agency commission, are you familiar with the fact that there may be offers that come across that require you or request that you pay the buyer's agency commission as well? Okay. So the two strategies that I would use there, first and foremost, we can let them know upfront a certain number that you would be willing to pay. And again, that's a number that once we actually go over the value of the house, you can determine what you want to offer upfront. Or we can leave it open-ended and they can include their agency compensation as part of their offer. So there's two schools of thought on that. Offer it up front, they know what they're getting, and then the chances and likelihood of having a more engaged agent on the other side coming in, knowing what they're going to get, great.
So if we offer it up front, does that mean we are committing to paying that cost?
No. You're
Okay.
offering that up front. That's what you're saying you are willing to pay. Going back to those changes that I was discussing that happened in August of last year, legally, we're not allowed to advertise what you're willing to pay. We're just allowed to say that you are willing to accept concessions. Afterwards, if an agent calls me to ask questions about the property, they may or may not ask me what you are willing to pay as far as an agency commission. As long as you authorize me to disclose that number, at that point in time, I can disclose it. I will tell you in the transactions I've been involved in this past year, what I found is the best case for you as the seller is to have them roll it up as part of their offer. That basically is the agent now has skin in the game and has to actually submit their offer and their commission as part of their offer and be competitive on that angle as well. So again, once we go over the final numbers on the house and what we would actually want to list the property at, we can break down those numbers and see what they actually look like. Because when you hear 2%, 3%, 5%, whatever numbers you hear, it's hard to see that. I want to show you the actual numbers once we decide on what the property is worth, so you can see what you're actually going to be paying out in the end.
Okay, so your cost is 3%.
Yes, ma'am.
What are you going to provide to us for that fee?
So a lot of people think realtors just show up, they sign a piece of paper, and they put a sign in your yard. I'm not going to just put a sign in your yard. There's going to be a lot of marketing that goes into that. There is the listing service that we put everything in. It's called the MLS. It's going to have all the information that's going to feed out to all these auxiliary sites. So Zillow, Realtor.com, all the sites that you're probably familiar with. If you go on Google and look, it's going to be my responsibility to engage those sites accordingly to make sure that your property stands out. I'm going to hire a professional photographer and videographer. You're sitting on just over an acre of land here. I'd like to get a drone out here and actually fly it around the property, really try to give an all-encompassing view of the property and what it has to offer. I know that you said on the phone your father has done some extensive work in remodeling the property. We want to showcase that. So basically, we want to market the property in a way that's going to make people actually want to come out and see it. My job is to make sure that people know that that property exists. So whether that's through the digital marketing campaigns, I'm a very tech-heavy person. I like to lean heavily on the digital marketing just because I can see the return on investment from that. So I would like to invest in certain platforms that, again, too, I would not put the property onto any of those platforms until we discuss them. Again, that being said, anything that I choose to do as far as marketing expense comes out of my commission. So my 3% upfront is all encompassing. Anything that we agree on as far as marketing that I bring to you as I feel is a strategic advantage to you is something that I'm going to pay for. So you will not.
You said 3% upfront. We have to pay you upfront.
No, I apologize, I misspoke.
Okay.
3% is what will be due to me after the sale is complete on the settlement day. I meant I will be paying any upfront costs and they will not come back to you. That will be coming out of my commission.
So
So
if the house never sells.
then I am not that money, not you.
All right, thank you.
Do you yourself bring buyers to the house? Will you show it and sell it on your own?
So I have no problem doing that. However, with how I structure the marketing, we will not have a problem with showings being filled. And if we do, again, there are several digital apps I can get into all the minutia of how they work, but essentially I'm going to have you download an app called Showing Time. It's going to send you push notifications. So anytime somebody books a showing, you're going to get a push notification letting you know. You're also going to get, hopefully, most of the time the agents don't actually go in and actually do it. It's about 50-50 shot, but we're going to get feedback from those listings as well. So either people are going to tell us how great the property is, or they're going to tell us the reasons why they don't think the property is worth what we listed the property at. So again, going into just keeping you constantly updated and informed. And it also goes back to how much of an active role that you actually want to take in this process. Like I said, I'm trying to offer you peace of mind. That, and again, it's an estate situation and you probably are trying to want to be, and again, I could be presuming this, but hands off as possible because you don't know much about the property. I can also just grab the reins on that and run that showing time app as much as I need to, if it's not something that you two are wanting to engage in. Or you want to do it at first and then you decide that there's just too many push notifications blowing up your phone. We can adjust that and turn it off and I can take the reins from there.
Well, I don't think, we're not living here, so the house is free to be shown. So I don't know that we need to be active at approving people coming and going from the house. That we would leave that up to you.
Okay, excellent.
But I would like to know the feedback.
Yes.
Okay. I guess going into the next part of this, I know it's in the state and I know you both have different backgrounds, but do any of you have any real estate background or know anyone that does?
My brother's ex-wife, who he does not speak to anymore,
Okay.
is a realtor in Florida. And she has advised us to ensure that we have top-notch marketing and we get the best price possible, which we have an idea of price in our head, but we would like to see what you think.
Okay. So
You're
We're gonna
awful
check
whiny
that.
today. Awful whiny.
we're going to check that block as a resource that we're not going to use throughout the process. But again, too, I do not mind. Everything I do is transparent. Any information I give you will be on some sort of written or digital platform. So please feel free to take any information I provide you and send it to whoever you want to for review. Like we talked about on the phone with the consumer notice, there are hotlines set up that you can call in should you have any problems, questions, comments, or concerns. Feel free to take any document that I give you and put it in front of anybody's eyes that you want to try to review it just to get a second opinion. I have no problem having multiple people look over any of the documentation that are prepared.
And will you work alongside of our estate attorney to handle and oversee everything?
Absolutely. My job here is to work for you, is to make your life easier and make this transition of this property as seamless as possible.
And what if the home is on the market and we're not getting any contracts and we decide that this relationship is not right for us? What sort of cancellation policy is there?
So very simply, you can just tell me that you don't feel that I'm working for you anymore and I can walk away from the situation. I don't have a piece of paper or any type of digital agreement. Pennsylvania law, you can simply contact my broker directly and just tell them that you don't feel that I have faith in you, or you don't have faith in me as my actual agent, and then he can move you to someone else within the agency, or the brokerage rather, sorry.
Okay, interesting. Okay. What questions do you have?
What's our house worth?
So like I said, to rip the Band-Aid, I went through and compared this property. I'm going to send this to you digitally because part of this process is you actually signing off on a what's called a comparative market analysis, saying that you understand where I came up with the listing price on the house and why we agreed to that. Property that I have listed there, it's actually going to be this one right here, is going to show. Yeah, so that price is not going to be comparative to yours.
Oh, hmm.
What I'm looking at with this property, and again, when I send you the digital display, I'm gonna show you why the interior of the property with the pool and everything else that comes along with this piece of property is comparable to that one directly. Now, granted, there's a lot more land involved, which is why this price comes up here, and there's also a whole lot more square footage. So when we adjust for the average land price in Pennsylvania and then the average square price per square foot in your home, or for the home selling within this area, I'd put the property around 420.
What if we wanted to get 5 for it? Would you still market and sell the home?
I would be very honest with you, it's not going to sell for 5. And if that's something that you believe that the house is worth 5, and we can't come to an agreement on a listing price, it would probably be better for you to work with another agent that believes that the property is worth more. But again, coming to the fact, I'm gonna send you about a 45-page digital report that's gonna break down exactly why I got to that price range and why I believe that that's where we should be. So not to insult you, but this is what I do professionally. So if I'm able to get to that price point using analytics that I pay for, and you believe that the property is worth much more than that, then it might not be a mutually beneficial situation for us to even get in the first place. So part of my job is protect you from yourself as well throughout this process.
Do you have any questions, Brother Joe?
How long is the contract?
So that's something we can define. I would like to say that if we do an agency agreement, we'd set it at about 6 months. With what I said, coming into this market, I think 6 months is more than enough time for us to be able to list, market, and hit settlement on the property.
So my ex-wife works for, she told me 2.5%. You're saying 3?
Mhm.
Why not 2.5?
Well, I don't know your ex-wife personally. We could look her up online and see where her standings are for the state of Florida. But outside of that, that's her personal preference and where she chooses to stick her commission rate at.
Okay. All right. So you would do it for less?
It's a conversation we can have. But again, too, I present to you with what I feel my value is worth. If you want to take away from that value, I would, like to have a conversation about that to be able to discuss why you believe that I'm not worth the rate that I disclosed in the beginning.
Okay.
Now, on that point, I am Italian and Irish. I will talk for 5 hours if I do not cut myself off. So I did tell you I want to come out today, very briefly go over some numbers and then kind of walk the property. Neither one of you lived here, so it would be good for us all to walk the property together, kind of go room by room, identify the things that your father was proud about. And then, unfortunately, we're probably going to find some things that were probably little hidden gems that we're going to have to deal with prior to. And then I would also like to talk about the furniture and the things that are in the property as well and what your plan is for getting them out. Several different avenues we have to be able to help you with that as well.
Okay.
All right.
Sound good?
Great.
Shall we go for a walk?
Sure.
Go for a walk. Walk, 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 walk. Great.
Go.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
sir.
Have a great one.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Rossi. Okay.
This doesn't come with the deal.
Oh, we have one more to get through today.
Oh.
Oh, come in, come
Morning.
in.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
And you are?
I'm Justin.
Oh, hello, Mr. Hovetter. Nice to meet you. We've heard your name around the Carlisle area.
Are you local? Do you live locally?
I used to,
Where are you at now?
not around here.
Not
Not around here.
And Joe, do you live locally?
No,
Where are you at?
Florida.
Florida.
Mhm.
Whereabouts?
I think, is that where I'm from? Okay, Florida,
Whereabouts?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. I have no idea where that's at. Is that right side, east side, west side, south side?
It's in the panhandle
It's in
somewhere.
Caribbean side.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
That's not the panhandle.
Have you
Okay.
been down there long?
Go from there.
You bet. Have you been down there for a long time?
Yes, 20 years.
How'd you wind up down there?
The Navy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good deal. Actually, I was in the Navy.
Were you?
Yeah.
You hate it as much as I did?
It was not, it was a beneficial experience that I recommend to all young people. However, not quite a good fit for me. It's what it is.
Yeah.
I'm better off for having been there.
Got any tattoos?
I have a couple,
Okay, cool.
but so anyway, who's the cat lover?
You smell it?
That was our
There are a
father.
lot of cats.
Yeah, that was our
Are
dad.
the cats still here?
Yeah. No, the cats are gone.
Okay.
We opened the door and let them all run.
Oh, really?
They may stay around the house, but
Well, they'll find a farm somewhere.
That's right.
It'll be all
That's right.
So, that's all right. You know, I have a carpet guy. He's got a really good solution. First of all, he'll blacklight it, find out where the offending liquids may be, and then he has a solution that he'll spot treat those, and then he can come in and actually treat the whole house. Does a pretty good job.
Good. It needs it.
Yeah, you know, some people are sensitive to that. So you're not cat lovers? Well,
and
then
what
I
does that,
don't want to offend you.
what
but,
does that cost us?
it's on a per room basis and it
Okay.
depends on the severity.
So
But-
this is not something that's included in your fee?
I don't do home repairs, I'm sorry.
Oh,
But
okay.
I can position you for success by, you know, tapping into all my resources.
oh, okay,
We can get you there.
okay. Well,
So-
please tell us about your resources and your expertise, Mr. Hovetter. We're
Sure.
very eager to hear about what you provide.
Well, no,
Justin.
it's Justin, please. Mr. Hovetter, my grandfather. I sent you some consumer guides. Did you have a chance to look through those?
We did, thank you for that.
Yeah, I hope they gave, you know.
And you have
some perspective.
very impressive reviews on Zillow as well.
Those were just testimonials that I wanted you to see. Here's my actual resume. It talks a little bit about my experience. Actually, my first 5 years in the business, I worked closely with a lot of attorneys. 25% of my business during that first 5 years came from those attorneys. Lion's share of that was estate work. Has the estate been opened?
It has been.
And who's the attorney?
We're working with the law office of Andrew Shaw.
Oh, great. I know Andrew well. We work well together. We've done plenty of deals. So I know Tammy is paralegal. So the communication there is going to be an easy back and forth. We can get you squared away. I know that there's a lot of heavy lifting, especially when you're not living locally. Have you considered what you're going to do with everything in the house?
We figured we'd sell it as is
Or
or auction it off.
everything in it or an auctioneer.
Okay, absolute option. You can do whatever you want. You're the boss. I just want to tell you, if you're looking to maximize the return on the property, I think it's probably in your best interest to go ahead and make it as turnkey as possible. It's important for people to see the actual sticks and the bricks of the house and not be distracted by what's in there. We had a beautiful house listed one time, and I brought my whole office in there to check it out. And Bernice had the most amazing baseball collection. She had memorabilia everywhere. And these are trained professionals, mind you, 25 of them walked through the house, everybody gawking at this collection. By the time we got outside, they couldn't tell you what color the floor was because they were so distracted by what is in the house. I don't want that to happen to you. I want them to focus on the property and be able to make an offer based on that. Does that make sense? Okay. So I want to cover a few things. Questions and concerns. I want to go over timeline, the processes, my team. Pricing commission comes last, and then we can get into more questions and concerns. I have a presentation that I put together that talks about all of this. Through our company, we have a program, called KV Corp, has a really nice CMA program that's a comparative market analysis. I think that's what it's called.
Must be something in the air in this house because there's lots of technical difficulties.
It's the house shoe.
It's the cat.
Right. Okay, so you can follow along. You can blow this up so that you can read it if you forgot your glasses. And all you have to do is tap this arrow to follow along with the presentation. I have it on my phone so that you guys can read that.
Okay.
Okay,
Great.
Sounds good.
wonderful.
All right. Now, and if at any point you're bored and I can see your eyes glazing over, we're going to skip on to the next one because I know that, are you interviewing other agents?
We have,
We
we were the
have.
last today.
So you've probably got a lot of the fluff and all of the details out of the way. So we're just gonna get down to the brass tacks.
Sounds great.
Does that sound good? All right, because your time is valuable. I don't want to waste it. I assume you already know the value of an agent, otherwise you wouldn't be interviewing several. The value of the agent is to maximize your time, and, you know, my efficiencies allow you to move a lot quicker, get more money for the house than you could on your own. Statistics show 13 to 19% more when using an agent compared to for sale by owner. We're going to go there. That talks about the actual process. You're meeting with an agent. That's step one. Good for you. Then we're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about how to prepare the home for market, whether that's staging or emptying or whatever else you need to do. We're going to get the property listed for sale. That includes the marketing. However long that process is dependent on market conditions, including supply, demand, interest rates, the particulars of your property, which is beautiful aside from, you know, the cat smell. Luckily, you have all these really nice vinyl floors, so they should be easy to clean up. When it comes to offers, that's when the real work starts, because we want to make sure that you can differentiate between the different offers that come in. You might accept an offer for $500,000, but if it doesn't appraise, then you may be in a hard luck situation, going back on the market with a stigmatized property. People asking what's wrong with it, why is it back on the market? So when we go under contract, we want to make sure we get to close. And that's one of my specialties, is making sure that once we go under contract, we stay under contract. There's going to be a due diligence period. One of the things that we can do by the presentation of the house in a strategic pricing location is to try and get competing offers so that you don't just get the best money, but also the best terms. The best terms might include, you know, home inspection, stuff like that. So if we can get you the highest price with the best terms, that's going to work to your advantage. A home inspector can probably find somewhere around $2,500 worth of stuff to fix, even in a brand new house. So in a house that was built in 1978, like yours, you know, it stands to reason that, you know, you could be opening yourself up to a whole can of worms. And then we get you on to close. Any questions about that process? Okay, great. You able to follow along there? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Iron Valley Real Estate is a relatively new company, but we're growing. We have about a half a dozen Iron Valley Real Estates in Florida. You may have seen our signs.
We have.
All right, that's great. And we're very strong here in the central Pennsylvania region. So I won't waste any time beating that dead horse. You go onto that map there. That's an interactive map, and I'll email this to you so you can go back and see what I've presented when you're making your decisions. But those are the comps that I used when putting together my information. I use this program specifically because it doesn't just give you the information, but it also gives you live pictures that you can go in through the presentation and see the houses that I'm comparing this home to. So you can actually compare apples to apples and say, oh, that one's much nicer, mine's much nicer than that one, and you can kind of see what I'm seeing when we're comparing these. Go on to the next one and you'll see a ranking line of where these properties fall. And buyers are looking, hey, of course I'm going to have technical difficulties, but buyers are going to, they know as much as anybody about the true worth of a property, right? They've been doing more market research than anyone. They're out there looking at 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 properties. And if yours doesn't fit into the pattern, they're going to kick it out and not consider it. So we need to be able to fit your house into the pattern where it belongs. So when they see it, they recognize the value and they're going to pull the trigger on it. When we price it correctly, we're going to have lots of showings. And when we have lots of showings, people were starting to project on one another when they see 14 business cards on the table or there's 20 people at an open house. If I like it, they must like it. And if I'm going to offer 200, I bet they're going to offer 200. So I'll offer 205. And that's how we get into an escalating situation. And in order to make their offer stand out, especially if they've lost offers in the past, they might say, this one looks good. I'm going to drop the home inspection. That's why we want to make sure that this house is cleaned out and people are comfortable making that leap. Okay. No, your dad's Wi-Fi is a little spotty.
Cats.
Cats.
I think they chewed
Somebody
some of
chewed
the
a wire.
That's why we hate cats. Right.
But you can see there on that number line where there's a big, strong grouping
Yep.
of
In the middle there.
the average closed, the median closed, the average pending, the nearest closed house. They're all right in that range.
So Justin, based upon these, where do you feel our home is worth?
I think actually that yours is above the average.
Even with the cats?
Even with the cats. I think that we can come in here and do some low dollar fixes. I never advise you to spend big money because the highest return on investment you're going to get on a property is about 50%. Unless you're doing something to pull away an objection. And in this case, we're pulling away that objection, the cat smell. So I think you're a winner by, even if it costs you $1,000 to get all of the loose ends tidied up in this house, I think that you're gonna come out ahead for that.
So what price do you think we could sell the house for?
Oh, I think you're firmly in the 365 range.
What if we wanted to list it at 500?
I'll list it at $1 million. But the longer it's on the market, the more people are gonna start to question it, the less urgency you're gonna get. And then soon you're going to start to get the bottom feeders, the people that are coming in because you're fishing with the wrong bait, right? You might be fishing for a guppy with a bait that guppy can't even get its mouth around, right? You need to be fishing for the people that are interested in your home with the right bait. If you list this thing at 500, $500,000 buyers are going to look at it and say that doesn't match, and they're not going to see it. Meanwhile, you missed all the people that would be interested in this house at 365. Does that make sense? Okay.
We'll get 500, it makes sense.
But, you know, you are the boss.
Don't forget that.
Skip on to the next page. You can see all the pricing misconceptions. You know, I don't know. Did you look at Zillow? Did you look at Redfin? Did you look at Realtor.com?
Mhm.
I didn't. What did they say your house is worth?
500,000.
500,000. That's great. And they do a pretty good job from outer space. However, they've never been here. They don't know that there's cats. And they may have the square footage off, right? So that's why you need a local expert to position this correctly, because you know what? Buyers probably don't look at all those things either. They're going to ask their hairdresser.
Okay.
So where do buyers get their information? Can you skip?
Yeah.
All right.
Zillow.
They get it from their sphere of influence. They get it from the interwebs. They get it from experts, and they get it from experience, right? So we need to make sure that this matches all of those resources. That dashboard there is just a real quick kind of overview of everything.
Okay. Let's talk about your cost.
My costs. I work for 3% plus $695. I guess the only question, if we decide to work together, is whether you want to pay something to incentivize buyer traffic by providing shared commission to a buyer's agent.
And what does that look like?
That could be anywhere from, you know, the old knowledge was 3%, right? That was never set in stone, but it was kind of a market determined expectation, somewhere in that 2.5 to 3 range. If you get below, you can subsidize that buyer's cost to whatever level you want. If you don't pay it, the buyers are gonna pay it, or they'll ask for it when negotiating the agreement of sale. If you were my mother, my brother, my sister, I would advise you to let it be a negotiable term in the agreement of sale.
In the consumer notice you sent us, it said that your commission is negotiable. True?
It is,
Okay.
absolutely. But I work for 3% plus 695.
So it's not negotiable?
It's negotiable, but my cost is 3% plus 695. If you want to pay less, I have a junior associate who might be able to help you out.
What's his name?
You could
Mike
probably
Ross.
call my Rossi.
That was a softball.
His face back there. Poor guy.
Hey,
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
So there's that. So what factors do influence pricing? You know, I take all this into account, the age of the property, the level of the upkeep. You know, how close to the road is it? I had a buyer today, was all psyched to see this property along Trindle until she got on the aerial map and saw how close it was to the road. So she canceled that. You know, I don't think that's a concern here, you know, but those are the different things that people take into account. I think that pricing things appropriately is important because you have the most attention early on. You know, that first 10 days on the market, if you look at a web traffic, you know, graph, it's going to show you that first 10 days is when you have the highest amount of traffic, and then it drops off drastically. We have a couple gimmicks for getting our web traffic back up. We advertise an open house, so bring it way back up, almost to those initial rollout numbers. And that's why I do open houses. That little blinky light on Zillow or Realtor.com can really bring the traffic, and it gives me an excuse to reach out to the neighborhood. It's a nice, you know, warm call at that point. Is it because I'm going to sell it at the open house? Probably not. It's, if an open house is run correctly, mission accomplished before, you know, before Sunday anyway.
Justin, do you yourself bring buyers through the house?
I will, however, it's a rarity. Okay. So if somebody calls me off the sign, I'll show them the house out of service to you. In that case, I represent you only. It's like they walked into my real estate store. I don't like practicing dual agency. And if we did that, it would be somebody who I had a pre-existing relationship with, and that would be only with your, you know, express written consent. You guys are in the driver's seat. So if you're uncomfortable with it, I designate another agent to assist that buyer.
Any questions, brother?
How long do you think it'll take to sell the house?
Hard to say. There's some market conditions out there that we're just kind of waiting on. I think that timing is important. I would say to get it on the market, you know, pre-Labor Day, or I'm sorry, pre-Memorial Day, just because that's when buyers are most active in this market seasonally. Based on the, what do we got, 15 comps that I pulled, that's pending and closed over the past year, average time on market is 28 days. So if we price it accurately, there's nothing that leads me to believe we wouldn't have similar results.
28 days until it's under contract or till we're settled? What's that mean?
You know what? I misspoke here. 16 days. And that's 16 days from beginning of marketing. That's active, that showings are allowed until we have a contract.
Okay.
So what we can do while we have the clean out phase is actually market this property coming soon. That will allow us to capture the imagination of buyers, get people lined up for showings. It doesn't count against us for days on market, so it won't appear stale. And then whenever you're ready to show it, we can flip the switch, bring people in.
So I remember, back when I was married. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, I totally skipped over another part of your question,
Okay.
Joe. And that was, till it's closed. Typical closing period, 30 to 60 days. 30's pretty quick. That's enough time to allow lenders to get their job done. 60 is pretty slow. Lenders don't like to lock in interest rates more than 60 days, so it's usually somewhere in between.
Yeah, I remember back when I was married a long time ago, my ex-wife should complain about certain types of loans. That, you know, you had to pay extra money for that type of loan because the buyer didn't have any money. How's that affect us?
That's part of the process whenever we get to entertaining offers. We'd like to have more than one offer so that we can, you know, pick and choose. Cash is king, right? We don't have to worry about anything. It's just, let's get the deal done. That can happen super quick. Conventional's best. The appraiser who comes out is just making sure that the collateral for the house meets the loan. Whenever you start getting into the alphabet loans, that's FHA for the Housing Administration, VA for Veterans Administration, USDA for rural loans. Then they have additional hoops to jump through because it's part of that appraiser's job to make sure that that the government and the taxpayers are protected in that scenario. So there's a couple other hoops to jump through. But with this house, I really don't think there's too much to deal with,
Even with the cats.
even with the cats.
Good to know. Okay,
Any other questions?
I don't have any. Do you have any?
I don't.
Okay,
It's my
so
pleasure.
we hit timeline, process, price, compensation. Do you want me to have the contracts prepared?
We're gonna talk. We
Okay.
need to talk.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, or with 1 being I never want to talk to this guy again, 10 I can't wait to sign his contract, like kind of where are we in there?
I don't know. You did have technical difficulties quite a bit. So
But he was in the Navy,
he was in the Navy.
and Dad was too. A strong 5 or 6 at least.
Strong 5 or 6.
5. We'll give him a 5.
I want to be fair.
5's failing. Is there something I could do to or say to get you into that 10 range? Just curious. I always want to know how I could do better. Sweetheart, that's gross. I'm out. That's your sister.
We'll have to think about it.
Okay,
We'll be back in touch.
that's fine. So, at that time, I'll decide if I'll work with you and we'll go from
That
there.
sounds great. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Bye. These guys are tough.
Does anybody here or at home have any questions for our presenters?
It was not.
His 15 minutes is way longer than me and Mike's 15 minutes.
It
No,
wasn't.
it wasn't. No, it wasn't.
Apparently, I'm just a trash can for the broker.
OBS wants him thrown to Rossi, he'll take it.
You're working for 2% of it.
That's fine. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Any feedback, anybody?
Is there anything online?
Help with the negotiable, commission's negotiable. I liked your exchange. And you just kept saying 3%, which is great. But if it's negotiable, it's negotiable. So you're not willing to negotiate.
If somebody says, last time I sold a house, I got 2. And then I'll start breaking into, well, there's different levels of brokerage and service. You can have a discount brokerage, a service. I like to consider our brokerage Service Plus. Here's what we do at Service Plus.
Okay.
You know, discount being sign in the yard and pray about it. Service Plus, professional photos, drones, blah, 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 blah.
Justin, Mike Gross asked, does the psychological component of the lockbox
Justin, have a seat so they can see you.
ever help?
Camera.
No, but it's a prop to discuss technology. if I was looking to use the psychological stuff, I'd, ask him, for a key.
Mhm. I like John's, he had a good, better, best, or bronze, silver, gold,
Yeah.
right? So he offered
Options.
different options. I couldn't see what they were, but
I never even thought of that.
right.
It's like,
Because his glasses are right in front of him.
Well, I didn't
That's
realize
for, that's for looking right here, but
Yeah.
he's offering us options of, which is a negotiable commission from his perspective of different levels of service. So, so often we get stuck in this rut of, as a listing agent, this is all I do. But if you can give the buyer or the seller.
All I
a
do is
choice,
my best. I'm
Right.
not gonna, that's it.
But it's different levels of service. If you, and you said that right there with the, just put a sign in the yard or all these additional services. John's actually showing you the 3 different services. So I like that as a consumer.
And do you allow them to start at bronze and then upgrade if they're not happy with the results?
So that was an older slide that I had, but I usually start with whatever I want them to get in the middle.
Yeah.
So if I want 6, it's 5, 6, 7. If I want 4, it's 3, 4, 5, because they always pick the center. And then if they give you any trouble, then you can say, well, you know what? I'll give you the gold for the silver. So I'll give you the 6 for the 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's just like, it just opens up the conversation, because like that shouldn't be the reason why they don't do business with me.
Yep.
That's what I found. So.
I'd like to comment on Rossi's, when we threw the question at him about being a new agent, the way you responded, that was great. So, I mean, that was a great takeaway, because yeah, I might not have the experience in this, but I've got the background in X, Y, and Z, and that's how it applies to what I'm doing. So it's because agents get hit with that all the time. Well, you've only been in real estate. I tell people all the time, they don't know how long you've been in real estate unless you go out there and you tell them, or somebody's talking about you. But to have that kind of rebuttal, that was a really, really great way to have that
And then
conversation.
you may not have the answer, but you have a brokerage and a team that will.
You got it.
Right.
So I'll get back to you with the answer.
You
Then
got
when you
it.
get that hoe better guy walking in with his cane.
That's right.
Mhm.
Then when
Always
somebody's
old
gonna-
bad habit.
Well, apparently Justin and I went in advertising for me the whole time, so that's fantastic.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it
that
was a
one.
good answer. That was good.
I think that I lost one time, and I know I lost it. I know who I lost it to, and I know why I lost it. And it was because I was inexperienced. And they told me when I called them back. And I'm pretty sure the other agent told them I was inexperienced.
Christy, what'd you do that for?
It wasn't, but she used to work with them.
Oh, ouch.
Ouch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Against the rules, isn't it? Yes.
I mean, that.
It's not mean if it's
It's
true.
not against the rules if it's facts.
It's not mean if it's true.
Sounds like that insult delivered.
Yeah, but, so until you can say I, say we, right? So go ahead and rip off anything you can from our web pages or my stories
Yeah,
or
and
whatever.
something else. So Justin, I mean, you guys obviously can't see this, but Justin came in with a resume, and he's talked about this quite a bit. Like, this is actually really sweet,
Mhm.
because I mean, it's hitting all the nail on the head. If I was legitimately selling a house, this
I know.
alone would, this alone though, would stand out over the top-notch listing presentation, the experience. Like, this is huge, because it's listing everything that you're providing in addition to your real estate background. Hey, I've got service in the military. This is my experience with appraising, all of that stuff. So
And it's for agents that are new is, what is your other experiences? Where did you work before? What are your life experiences? Because some of those things may connect with that person. What your likes and dislikes, your hobbies, because connecting with that person is the most important part of sales. And if you're selling yourself and you're connecting with that person.
I got a listing one time because I Googled the guy and found out that he was a Navy guy, and he was on a ship. So I steered into that like,
you
Right.
didn't wear shorts to that listing appointment.
no, I didn't.
The other thing you don't know is Justin and John both sent us an email, a prelude of, hey, I'm sorry for your loss. You know, I'm gonna meet you on this day at this time. And just gave us an intro into what was going on. So, and just followed up with us and confirmed the appointment. So that was important as well. Sometimes we forget about that, and just sending a text message is impersonal, but an email with more information has their contact information that we can follow back up on. So I thought that was a nice touch as
It
well.
wasn't major. It was like 3 paragraphs, a link to my Zillow page so they could read my testimonials. And then I sent them 2 consumer guides about listing and questions to ask listing agents so that I could hopefully derail my competition.
And 3 awesome presentations,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah, you guys are
In a
really
short period of
tough.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know how long does a listing presentation take? You know, usually not 15, 20 minutes.
That's what Mike brought up a good point, because he was like, getting into the flow of the actual process, like that's, because most of the selling happens before you get there,
Mhm.
Right.
you know what I mean? So
You
like,
got it.
but
You got it.
And rapport is so tough, so important that I try to start with a conversation, let them turn it to real estate.
Yeah.
So once they feel comfortable with me, then, you know, they're gonna turn it. So who are they gonna do business with? People they know, like, and trust. If they don't know me, then they have to like and trust me. So let's get that out of the way, and then they're gonna turn it towards the real estate, and then make the hammer, you know, drop everything on them, go through everything.
There's a large part of psychology too that, like with something like this, you don't really get to utilize, like walking the property and actually seeing what's being displayed in the house, being able to spark up those conversations, because that's exactly, like, I don't talk about real estate. I bring up as much commonality as I possibly can, and then I let them bridge it. And once they bridge the gap, then I know if they're comfortable and want to start talking about it. But, I mean,
Totally threw me
the
off
family
with that.
resemblance is a little.
I threw her off with the cats.
Totally threw me off with that.
I like what he said about, yeah, we got the cats because of the rats in here.
I was so not prepared for that, like.
I think there's a lot to be said for the nonverbals too. Not to take anything away from you guys, it's a weird spot to be in, I get it. But Justin looks like he's been doing it for 50 years. Like he came in, I don't know if you saw him prop his leg up, like he's
Flop down in
he's
the
hanging out
chair,
with his
yeah.
friends. But I mean, I don't know, from a point you go, maybe it's unprofessional, but that's me to a T. Like, I'm not there to do business. We'll get to business, but I'm there to hang out, we're gonna talk, and we're gonna build that rapport.
You have to feel comfortable with me. And for you to feel comfortable with me, I have to feel comfortable with myself. I got far more listings when I stopped wearing a suit and tie to those appointments. You gotta be your, I know this is so cliche, your authentic self. But you know, what all that means is you just gotta tap into who you are, be comfortable with who you are, and then that's gonna shine through and you'll get it.
Awesome.
Question online. Justin, when you tell people 3% and you don't change, what do people do?
Take 3%.
It's an invitation to sell your worth. Like, do we want to compete on price or value? So you need, if you're going to compete on price, you'll always lose. If I do it for 2.5, somebody will do it for 2. If I'll do it for 2, somebody will do it for 1.5. So I'd rather prop up the 3% and make the other people look like fools for not delivering at that level. I did a race to the bottom once, and that was when my jerk neighbors told me that they were going to list with KW. And I would have had to sit on my front porch and see that sign out of my front window. But it was important to me to have that listing because my neighbors need to know who's in charge of that damn neighborhood. And I couldn't see his face.
Who's this?
No.
His
no,
face.
no.
Well, I like the line that you've used so many times is Mrs. Hovetter expects,
Right,
right, that I bring home 3%.
right.
And I don't want to get into an argument with my wife.
So they continue, would you walk away if they won't do the 3%?
Why couldn't you do a flat rate?
I just say, well, hey, are you looking to hire somebody based on the amount of fee they charge? And then you say it like that and they're like, well, I don't know.
Well,
'Cause
would I walk away? I don't know. Have I walked away from listings? Yes. But I could tell that they were difficult. We weren't a good fit. So whenever I said, if we decide to work together, and John hit on this, are we going to work together? Yes or no? Okay, here's the cost. Have I negotiated? Yeah. Was I happy about it? No. Was I able to pay some bills at the end of the day because I got it for 2.5? Actually, no. On that one, I started at 6. He said, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent. I said, I'll do it for 5 and pay out 2.5 because I think it's that important for you to share commission with a buyer's agent because you were already priced at the top end of the range. And I want to position you for success. So I want to make it easy for buyer's agents to bring offers on your property. He said, you'll do it for 2.5? I said, no. You misheard me. I said, I'll do it for 5 and I'll pay 2.5. If it's just me alone, I'm definitely doing it for 3. So that's kind of a variation on John's. If you won't do it for 5, you'll do it for 3. That's a 2% savings, right?
Any other questions online?
They want to know who you two would pick.
Oh.
Earmuffs, guys.
I'm not in the running, because apparently I'm always the runner-up.
No. I'd go with Rossi. He's got spunk.
She did say her dad was cheap and greedy, so.
I'm calling my ex-wife.
Yeah, right. I don't know. For somebody owner sounds pretty good right about now.
I don't do a whole lot of listing presentations, like formal ones, because I don't get in front of a whole lot of strangers at this point anymore.
It's more like a reunion, sitting down, talking over clients, friends, people you've done business with, people you've been in business with. And when you get to a certain stage like Justin and Christy, Terry, they've been doing this for longer than I have, is that the business comes to you and they already know who you are. Your resume, even though he sent us this resume, I don't think he has to show it much anymore.
But that's, on some point, that's lazy. I'm not trying to grow my business anymore. Ira Nadich used to say, if you're not doing this, if you're doing more than 25% referrals, you're not working hard enough. You should be having 75% new clients in your pipeline at all times. That means your business is growing. And I can identify that, but I don't like strangers that much. I don't like surprises that much. Someday, 10 years from now, hopefully you have enough people in your sphere of influence that you get to cherry pick. And then you're just working with referrals of past clients because they're already kind of pre-qualified. If, this friend of my friend's going to tell me if they're crazy, I know what I have to do.
Well, I look at the buyer's agents that are out there selling houses they're the listings that are coming up in 5-6 years. So the buyer's agents that are busy now selling houses are going to be the listing agents of tomorrow.
If they do the job for the next 5 years.
Right. But
Right.
usually, exactly, they may not make it. But I know I've only been in the business since 2017. All those people, a lot of my sold houses are coming back and selling the house that I sold them. And I'm helping them buy another house. So it's a compounding effect. So I've talked to so many agents that I don't want to deal with buyers, but you're giving up your future by doing so. 2
things that I overheard whenever I was hiding in the den while that my competition was presenting. One, over 66% of people don't reuse their old agent, not because of bad communication. Well, it is because of bad communication. It's because they forgot who their agent was. So if you can stay on top of people that you touched in previous transactions throughout the lifespan, like Kyle said, if you do your job for the next 5 years, whenever they have 2 more babies and it's time to move, then you've got the first at bat. And then there's no reason, if you represented, you can market to both sides of the transaction. You can, if you represented a seller and then there's a new buyer in that house, you can keep on sending stuff to that person too. And then the other one, Rossi said, if it doesn't sell, or if I don't like you, how do I get out of the transaction? And you're like, well, just call my broker and tell him you don't have faith in me. I would encourage you to make your broker fee earned and non-refundable. That way, if they cancel the transaction prior to term, you can at least get paid back for your photos.
The most fun is when you,
Releasing listing agreements, we'll try and find them a better fit and get you a referral on that.
the most
Another
fun is to
question.
to their own.
Recommendation to them to let our agent commission be negotiated as part of the contract. Is that your recommendation to everyone, or is that a case by case?
Case by case. I mean, if it's between my family and the buyer's agent's family, I'm going to feed my family first every time. So if they're not willing to pay me 3% and the buyer's agent something, then I'm going to retreat to 3%. That's your duty. That's what you're here for. You're here to feed your family, right? That's my opinion. So I'm going to do what it takes to get 3%. That's what Mrs. Hovetter expects. I've got bills to pay. Maybe 4% if it's a divorce.
Or an estate.
Or an estate. Like if I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting on liquidating this thing, it might be worth extra.
Getting people to clean up the cap.
I had a suicide house.
Oh,
And the executor was in Alabama. So I was the contractor on that thing. It was, I won't gross you out with the details, but there was some work to be done. That was a 4%er.
I go into listing appointments and I tell all of okay, so full disclosure, I've never competed. Because I always, when I walk into a listing appointment, I know I'm getting it because I was referred by clients or it's a past client. So I already know that I'm getting the house. But when
Well,
I
think
sit.
I think you're kidding yourself too as an agent if you really truly believe that most people are talking to 3 agents. They're not. If you say yourself and you do it right,
True.
you sign a listing agreement.
Right. But so when I'm talking to my sellers about the buyer's agent fee, I tell them up front, my fee is 3 or 3.5%, depending on obviously the listing situation. But I tell them that I feel as if they need to be prepared to pay buyer's agency fee.
Yes.
And this is what it is. However, you're not committing to it. We're not writing it into the contract. I'm going to do a cost sheet, side-by-side cost sheet for you so you can see what it is with just mine and then what it is if you pay up to 3%. But we want to leave it negotiable. That way, when we get an offer, it's presented directly into the offer, and then you can make the decision based upon what that offer is and how you feel about it. That way, I'm putting it all on the table for them. That they know worst case scenario, this is what they're looking at. They're anticipating it because 9 times out of 10, we're going to pay it. But if I can save them money, I'm going to save them money too.
And absolutely.
I did that last night and I loved it.
I mean, our job is to protect our clients, right?
I loved it.
Do we want to pre-negotiate it? I mean, some people like going to the hotel and getting the package that includes the breakfast, right? Other people just want to get the hotel and then they'll decide whether they want to go out to breakfast or if they're going to go to the buffet in the ballroom. They don't know. It's different people have different preferences and that's your client who's going to make that decision. If in the case of that one where he was at the top end of the price range, I strongly urged him to include buyer agency compensation. because we wanted to incentivize buyer traffic and make it easy, that was when you could still market what it is. Now it's becoming more commonplace. You can't hang that billboard that, hey, we're paying a buyer agent. You can't put that in the MLS anymore. So now I get to talk to every agent and say, we're not paying a predetermined buyer agency compensation. Throw it in the contract. I really strongly think that that's shared compensation is going to go away in the next 18 months, 2 years.
What other questions at home? Any? So if I had to make a decision today, I'm gonna ask our 3 presenters to co-list. And because I like,
You're so full of shit.
I like what they all had to offer, and I'm not picking favorites. So you 3 duke it out between the 3 of you.
Well, Justin works. for
Well, Justin was
3%.
late.
Was it late?
I just want to
Party
point out,
doesn't start till I get there.
I had no technological deficiencies during my.
Yeah, that's very true.
So,
That is true. Touche.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everybody at home.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you guys
guys.
for coming in. This was a lot of fun. Next month, we're doing a buyer's agent, a buyer presentation. So whoever is game to be that buyer agent, let me know. We'll let you off.
A
on it.
buyer's
Buyer's
consultation.
consultation, yep.
So the one thing that we missed that we didn't see and for time is the consumer notice discussion. I think we didn't get it in your email. We didn't get it in your email either. So that's an important aspect of the presentation that we got to make sure we get to.
Yeah.
True. So you're all fired.
That was
We
my
can play
question.
it
Where
back.
was the consumer notice? Where was the short certificate? Where was the deed? You should be polling the deed first to know who's authorized to sell it. Who are you meeting with?
I already
April, we're
talked-
putting you on the table next
Next time.
That's not in the deed. I mean, they told me Andrew Shaw's done it. I want to step above and beyond. I had Andrew pull the long certificate.
Oh,
Okay.
shut up.
No, the reason I asked you for the deed is because if they have that out and you get there, that's yours to lose. That's like an indicator that they got the stuff done that you asked them to do.
Mhm.
Ah,
Yeah.
right.
See, I take it to impress, and I take it to figure out who I need to be talking to.
Mhm.
Nice.
I'm with
Because if I'm
April.
talking to the wrong people, I need to call the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I can't be meeting with you, sorry.
Good deal.
Awesome.
That's what
Thanks,
I'm
everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.